Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're thrilled to have you here with us today. Today, we're traveling back in time to explore the most brutal and terrifying punishments of ancient Africa. The African continent holds some of the most mind-blowing and terrifying stories of punishment known to man. We're not talking about your average slap on the wrist here. These were punishments that went far beyond what we might consider today. These punishments were so brutal and unsettling that they would make even the bravest souls shudder. These methods were not only to punish but to send a powerful message and maintain order. In this video, we will delve into the brutal methods of punishment used in ancient African societies. So buckle up, get ready for some seriously disturbing history, and let's dive into the dark side of ancient Africa. Imagine the scorching African sun beating down on your back, sand sticking to your sweat-drenched skin. The heat is relentless, and every breath feels like inhaling fire. Your heart pounds against your ribs, a reminder of your fragile mortality. You're being forced into a pit in the ground, your own grave. The sight of the open grave sends chills down your spine despite the scorching heat. Being buried alive is a primal fear, hardwired into us. The darkness closing in, the weight of the earth pressing down, the slow, agonizing suffocation. It's the stuff of nightmares, the kind that jolts you awake in a cold sweat. For many in ancient Africa, this nightmare was a terrifying reality. This punishment was deeply rooted in cultural and spiritual beliefs. It was seen as a necessary evil to appease spirits or ensure a bountiful harvest. Regardless of the reasoning, the outcome was always the same: a slow, agonizing death. Crimes punished by burial were particularly terrifying. Let's explore the reasons and methods behind this gruesome practice. You might think such a punishment was reserved for the most heinous criminals like murderers and traitors, but the reality might surprise you. In some ancient African societies, even minor offenses like stealing food to survive or disobeying a tribal elder could lead to this fate. And yes, practicing witchcraft was also a common reason. By witchcraft, I don't mean Hollywood magic shows. These were ancient beliefs and superstitions that held immense power over these communities. For instance, if a drought struck a village, or a strange illness swept through the population, it wasn't uncommon to blame these misfortunes on witchcraft. Someone in the community would be singled out, often based on little more than rumor and fear, and accused of bringing this evil upon them. Their punishment? You guessed it. A slow, agonizing death beneath the earth. The Ashanti Kingdom, a powerful empire located in present-day Ghana, had its own unique and brutal methods of punishment. The Ashanti people had a complex social structure and a strong belief in the spirit world. They believed that certain crimes, especially those that disrupted the social order or offended the spirits, deserved the most severe punishment imaginable. One of the most terrifying punishments was being buried alive. Imagine being accused of treason against the Ashanti king. This wasn't just about betraying a ruler, it was about betraying the very fabric of their society, disrespecting the ancestors, and jeopardizing the spiritual well-being of the entire kingdom. The accused would be brought before the court, their fate hanging in the balance. If found guilty, they were often condemned to be buried alive, a punishment that served as both a deterrent and a ritualistic cleansing of the kingdom from the taint of their supposed crimes. Now consider the profound impact these punishments had on the community. Imagine the fear that would grip a village when they witnessed someone being buried alive. The sheer terror of knowing that even a minor infraction could lead to such a gruesome end. This fear was a powerful tool. It kept people in line, enforced conformity, and solidified the power of the rulers and spiritual leaders. It was a chilling reminder that stepping out of line could have the most dire consequences. But the impact went beyond just immediate fear. The trauma of witnessing such an event, of knowing that your neighbor, your friend, your family member could be condemned to such a fate, left deep psychological scars on the entire community. It's a harrowing thought, a stark reminder of the brutality that humans are capable of inflicting on one another, and a glimpse into the dark side of ancient African justice. Okay, so we've talked about being buried alive. As awful as that is, unfortunately, the punishments in ancient Africa didn't stop there. Let's talk about mutilation. And when I say mutilation, I'm not talking about a small cut or a bruise. I'm talking about the deliberate and often permanent disfigurement of the human body. Imagine, if you will, a society where your body, your very being, served as a living, breathing record of your deeds, both good and bad. Marking the guilty was a common practice. In many ancient African cultures, mutilation wasn't just about punishment. It was about branding the guilty, making them living examples of the consequences of transgression. We'll explore the various methods used to permanently mark those who were punished. Forms of mutilation were among the most brutal punishments in ancient Africa. The types of mutilation varied widely across different African societies. Amputation of limbs, usually the hands or feet, was one of the most common forms. This punishment was often used for theft, directly targeting the offender's ability to repeat the crime. Another horrifyingly common form of mutilation was blinding, often carried out by driving a hot iron rod into the eyes. Imagine the searing pain, the smell of burning flesh, the irreversible loss of one of your senses. It sends shivers down my spine just thinking about it. Some cultures even practiced facial mutilation, cutting off noses, lips, or ears. These acts were designed not only to punish but to humiliate and shame the individual for life. The physical pain inflicted through these acts of mutilation was undoubtedly excruciating, but the psychological torment was immense. Imagine the mental anguish of being permanently disfigured, marked for life as a criminal, a sinner, an outcast. In many ancient African societies, your body was your identity. It represented your place in the community, your relationship to the spirits, your very essence as a human being. Mutilation, therefore, was not just a punishment, it was a profound violation of the self, a spiritual and social death sentence. Those who suffered mutilation were often ostracized from their communities, shunned by their families, and forced to live on the fringes of society, forever marked by their past transgressions. The mental impact of these punishments was devastating, leaving deep psychological scars that lasted a lifetime. The scars of the past are a testament to the brutality of these punishments in ancient Africa, offering a chilling glimpse into the complexities of human justice and the brutal realities of a time when survival often outweighed compassion. These physical and emotional scars serve as a stark reminder of the dark side of human nature, the capacity for cruelty that exists within us all. And while these practices may seem barbaric and unimaginable today, they serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of understanding the past, even its darkest chapters. By exploring these stories, by confronting the uncomfortable truths of history, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world we live in. Alright, so we've talked about some pretty brutal punishments in ancient Africa, but this one is different. It's not about physical pain, not directly anyway. This is about something that cuts deeper. This is about exile. Imagine just for a second everything you've ever known, everyone you've ever loved, your family, your friends, your home, your entire world gone, just like that. That's what exile was, a complete severing from everything familiar. You see, in many ancient African societies, community wasn't just a nice thing to have, it was everything. It was your safety net, your support system, your very identity. To be banished from that, well, it was like being stripped of your humanity. The reasons for such a severe punishment varied, from breaking societal norms to committing serious offenses. The consequences were profound, often leading to a life of isolation and hardship. Exile was not just a punishment, it was a fate that reshaped one's entire existence. Think about social taboos, the unspoken rules that dictate what's acceptable and what's not. In some cultures it might be disrespecting your elders, in others it could be stealing or committing adultery. In ancient Africa, these rules, these codes of conduct, they were sacred. Breaking the code often resulted in severe punishments, such as being cast out, banished from your village, your tribe, sometimes even your entire kingdom. It was a powerful deterrent, a way to maintain order and ensure that everyone stayed in line. But it was also a punishment that carried a heavy weight. Imagine being forced to leave your family behind, knowing that you might never see them again. Imagine wandering through the wilderness, alone, vulnerable, with nothing but the clothes on your back and the fear in your heart. That's the reality of exile, the constant threat of danger, the gnawing hunger, the crushing loneliness. It was a fate many feared even more than death itself. In ancient Africa, those who committed the most heinous crimes faced a fate worse than death. Predators lurked in the shadows, food and water were scarce, and the elements were as merciless as they were unpredictable. Exile was like being thrown into a den of lions, unarmed and completely unprepared. Many didn't survive the journey, succumbing to starvation, disease, or the wrath of nature itself. Those who did often found themselves living on the fringes of society, ostracized and alone. They became nomads, wanderers, forever marked by the stigma of their banishment. The psychological toll was immense. Imagine the guilt, the shame, the constant yearning for a home you could no longer return to. It was a heavy burden to carry, a sentence that extended far beyond the physical act of removal. Exile in ancient Africa was often seen as a life sentence, but it wasn't always solely about punishment. In some instances, it served as a form of rehabilitation, offering the individual a chance to reflect on their actions and seek redemption. Legends tell of exiled individuals who, through acts of courage or compassion, managed to earn their way back into their community's favor. They might have saved a life, performed a heroic deed, or returned with valuable knowledge that benefited the tribe. These stories, whether real or embellished, highlight the glimmer of hope for redemption within the harsh practice of exile. They remind us that even in the most severe punishments, there was always the possibility of forgiveness, of finding one's way back from the brink. However, these stories were the exception, not the rule. For most, exile was a one-way journey to an uncertain and often perilous future. It was a powerful tool of social control, a reminder that the bonds of community, once broken, were not easily repaired. In some ancient African societies, public punishment was a common practice. They believed that the punishment should fit the crime, and this principle was deeply ingrained in their culture and justice system. Justice was served publicly, not just for retribution but to maintain social order and cohesion. Public humiliation was a tool used to punish and educate the community about the consequences of breaking societal norms. Imagine being found guilty of stealing, lying, or disrespecting elders. The entire village would be aware of your transgression. Instead of a prison sentence, your punishment was broadcast for everyone to see, meant to deter others from committing similar offenses. These events were meticulously planned to maximize shame and send a clear message to anyone thinking about breaking the rules. The entire community would gather, creating an atmosphere of anticipation and tension. The anticipation in the air would be thick enough to cut with a knife. People would gather early, discussing the event and speculating about the outcome. You'd be placed in the center of the circle, maybe tied to a post or forced to wear a ridiculous costume, designed to strip you of your dignity and make you feel vulnerable. Everyone in your village, from family and friends to your worst enemies, would be staring at you. The collective gaze of the community was a powerful force, making you acutely aware of your isolation. The weight of their gaze was crushing, every whisper like a dagger to your heart. You could hear the murmurs and feel the judgment in their eyes. And that's before the actual humiliation even began. The tension built as you waited for the formal proceedings to start. The accusations were read out loud, detailing your wrongdoing for everyone to hear. The authority figure, often a respected elder, would recount your misdeeds in a loud, clear voice. Your deepest shame was laid bare. There was no hiding from the truth as it was laid out for all to see. The crowd jeered and pointed, their laughter echoing in your ears. This public scorn was intended to reinforce the severity of your actions. You became a living example of what not to do, a cautionary tale whispered from parent to child. This public spectacle served as a powerful reminder of the importance of adhering to societal norms and values. Parents used these events as teaching moments, explaining to their children the importance of honesty, respect, and community values. The lessons learned from these public punishments resonated for generations. After the event, the village would slowly return to normal, but the memory of the punishment would linger. It served as a constant reminder of the consequences of stepping out of line. As the sun set over the village, the community would reflect on the day's events, reinforcing their commitment to maintaining harmony and order. The spectacle, though harsh, was a crucial part of their societal fabric. The Walk of Shame was a deeply humiliating punishment. It wasn't just a one-time event, it could be drawn out, stretched into an agonizing ordeal. Imagine this: you're stripped of your usual clothes and forced to wear rags. Your hair is matted and covered in dirt. You're paraded through the village, a living, breathing spectacle for all to see. Every step is torture, every jeer a fresh wound to your pride. People throw rotten food, spit at your feet, and hurl insults that sting like scorpion venom. You become a vessel for the community's anger and disappointment, a walking reminder of the consequences of stepping out of line. And the worst part, you can't hide your face. You have to meet the eyes of those you've disappointed, those who once respected you. You see the judgment in their eyes, the flicker of disgust. It's a pain that cuts deeper than any physical blow. This walk of shame, as it was sometimes called, could last for hours, even days. The psychological impact was profound, leaving scars that lasted a lifetime. Think about it. The physical pain of a beating might fade, but the scars of public humiliation, those run deep. You become an outcast, ostracized from the very community you once belonged to. People avoid your gaze. Whispers follow you like shadows. The shame of that day, the memory of those judging eyes follows you everywhere you go. You become a ghost, haunting the fringes of your own life. It's a heavy burden to bear, the weight of societal disapproval crushing your spirit. Some individuals unable to bear the shame might flee their homes, becoming nomads, forever marked by their past. Others might retreat into themselves, their once vibrant personalities extinguished by the fire of public humiliation. The psychological toll is immense, a constant reminder of their transgression. These brutal punishments left lasting scars, both physical and emotional, forever altering the lives of those who endured them. It's tempting to view these ancient practices through a modern lens and label them as cruel and unusual punishment. However, in the context of ancient African societies, public humiliation had its reasons. It was a method to maintain order and enforce societal norms without resorting to violence. These were often tightly knit communities where reputation was paramount. The fear of public shame served as a powerful deterrent, ensuring compliance. It was a form of social control, designed to ensure conformity and cooperation. Whether it was justified or not remains a topic of debate. But one thing is certain, public humiliation was a stark reality of life in ancient Africa, highlighting the power of societal pressure and the human need for acceptance. In ancient Africa, a fate worse than death awaited those who committed the most heinous crimes. Enslavement was one of the most extreme punishments, not just reserved for the worst crimes. It was a complex institution, woven into the fabric of society, and it took on many forms. Imagine this, you're captured in a tribal war, your home overrun, your family scattered. You're stripped of your identity, your name, your very humanity. You become a commodity, bought, sold, and traded like livestock. You might end up toiling in fields under the scorching sun, forced to build monuments to someone else's power, or serving in a wealthy household, your life no longer your own. Every day becomes a struggle for survival, a constant battle against exhaustion, hunger, and despair. Debt and desperation often led to severe punishments. In some cases, it was a consequence of debt. Imagine this, your family falls on hard times, crops fail, illness strikes, and you're forced to borrow money from a wealthy neighbor. But the debt spirals out of control, the interest piling up faster than you can repay it. And then, the unthinkable happens. You're unable to repay your debt, and you, your spouse, or even your children are taken as slaves. Severe punishments ensue, as you become property, used to settle accounts, your future stolen to pay for the past. It's a cruel twist of fate, a reminder of the precariousness of life in ancient Africa. The complex system of punishment in ancient Africa was intricate and multifaceted. Various methods were employed, each serving a distinct purpose within the society. Some punishments were designed to maintain social order and reinforce the authority of leaders. Public punishments served as a deterrent, aiming to prevent others from committing similar offenses. There were also ritualistic elements, where punishments were part of larger ceremonial practices. This multifaceted approach highlights the complexity of ancient African societies and the nuanced ways they addressed crime and punishment. Despite the varied methods, the impact of these punishments was profound and lasting, leaving an indelible mark on African societies. The ripple effect of these punishments was felt throughout society, shaping social structures, economies, and even cultural practices. It fueled conflicts, created deep divisions within and between communities, and led to the displacement of entire populations. The transatlantic slave trade, which saw millions of Africans forcibly transported to the Americas, cast a long shadow over the continent, its legacy still felt today. It's a stark reminder of the horrors of human greed and the enduring power of prejudice and discrimination. From being buried alive to the shame of public humiliation and the horrors of enslavement, the punishments of ancient Africa were brutal and often horrifying. They remind us of the power of societal norms, the importance of community, and the severe consequences of straying from the path. So, the next time you think about complaining about a parking ticket, reflect on the reasons and consequences of these ancient practices, and be grateful for the comparatively lenient justice system we have today. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating historical insights. See you next time.